Most founders learn growth the same way. They learn it by losing money, hiring the wrong agency, launching the wrong funnel, running ads into an offer that was never positioned correctly, rebuilding the website when the real issue was the message, blaming the sales team and the buyer when they were never properly preloaded to begin with, and then one day, usually after years of it, they look back and realize the problem was never the ad, the page, the closer, or anything else. The problem was the pattern. The buyer losing belief somewhere in the journey, and the founder was solving the symptom instead of the constraint. Every time for years, and that is an expensive way to learn. Most founders pay it, you don't have to. Here is the thing about pattern recognition. It's not earned by being smart. It's earned through volume. You only see the patterns once you've watched the same breakdowns repeat across hundreds of funnels, thousands of campaigns, and tens of thousands of creative tests and hundreds of thousands of buyer actions. You don't get there from one win, you get there from a body of work. And that is how we got there. $750 million in ad spend. Stop and think about that for a second. $750 million worth of buying behavior, clicks, scrolls, hesitation, applications, opt-ins, drop-offs, sales sitting in our data. That's not a number we put on this page to look impressive. That's the volume required before you can stop guessing and start actually diagnosing. Behind it, over 850 funnels sold, over 18,000 ad campaigns deployed, over 50,000 creative hooks and offers tested, more than 1 million words of sales copy written, over 75,000 automations built, over 400,000 booked calls generated, and over 6,000 recorded sales calls reviewed and analyzed. Those numbers aren't a brag, they're a license. They're why we're allowed to walk into a business and tell you where the constraint actually is instead of guessing along with you and charging you for the lesson. Because after enough volume, you start to see what most founders never really get to see clearly. You start to know that the problem isn't just the ad. You start to know that the funnel may look great, but the belief structure underneath it is weak. You start to know when the offer makes sense to the founder, but not really to the buyer. You start to know when the sales team is being blamed for prospects who weren't closed because truthfully, they were never properly preloaded to close. And you start to know when the business has activity, but no real architecture behind it. That is the difference. Now, here's what most founders don't understand about why they're stuck. A beginner sees a broken campaign and says, we need better ads. A funnel agency sees a weak conversion rate and says, we need a better page. A copywriter sees the problem and says, we need better copy. A sales trainer sees low closes and says the closers need training. You see, everyone is diagnosing everything from their individual specialty. And every specialty looks like the answer when it's the only lens that you have, which means if you spent the last few years hiring those specialists and you're still stuck, it's not because you picked the wrong ones. It's because the diagnosis itself was wrong. You were paying experts to fix the part of the machine that they could see, while the actual constraint was somewhere else that they were never going to look. That's why the same founder hires a third agency, a fourth copywriter, a new sales trainer, and still ends up in the same place that he was before. After enough scar tissue, you stop diagnosing from your specialty. You diagnose from the whole machine. You ask better questions like where did the buyer first enter? What did they believe before they saw the offer? Where did trust rise? Where did risk rise? And where did urgency collapse? Where did the sales conversation have to restart from zero? And that is what pattern recognition actually gives you. Not more options, but better questions. And better questions lead to, guess what? A better diagnosis. This is why most founders don't need another low status sales pitch. They don't need another vendor trying to sell them a service before they understand their business. They don't need another agency learning at their expense. They need to know where the system is actually breaking. Is it attention? Is it belief? The offer, the funnel, the follow-up? Is it sales? Is it cash conversion, fulfillment, or is it control? Until you know that, every move is a guess. And guessing your way is way more expensive than diagnosis itself. But the worst cost of guessing isn't even financial. It's that guessing teaches the founder the wrong lesson about their own business. A failed campaign doesn't always mean the market doesn't want the offer. A weak close rate doesn't always mean the sales team sucks. A low converting funnel doesn't always mean the copy needs to be designed again and redone. Sometimes the buyer was never moved through the belief required for the action that you wanted. Sometimes the offer was right, but the belief chain leading up to it was broken. Sometimes the entire machine was built from parts that looked fine on their own, but never worked together as one system. And the founder gets the wrong answer about the business. They conclude that the market is soft when the messaging was off. They conclude that the team is weak when the system never set the team up to win. They conclude that the offer is wrong when the offer was right, but the belief chain was broken. That, my friends, is how you waste years. Not by failing, but by drawing the wrong conclusions from failure and then acting on it. This is why Luxvoni doesn't start any engagement ever with assumptions. We start it with context. And that's what this application is for. We're not asking you to buy anything at this stage. We're asking you to give us enough context to determine whether a real conversation makes sense for the both of us. Because without context, we'd be guessing too. And guessing is exactly what serious founders should be trying to escape. If there is no fit, we will tell you. If timing is wrong, we'll tell you that as well. If the opportunity isn't strong enough, we'll tell you too. But if there's real potential, the next step is a short fit call. Not a high pressure sales call, a real conversation. We get to know you, you get to know us. We evaluate whether there's enough mutual respect, mutual trust, and enough opportunity to explore something deeper together. If that conversation confirms alignment, then we discuss what an audit should actually look like based on your current state, your goals, your constraints, your market, your buyer, and your acquisition systems. This audit isn't a generic package. It is a diagnosed process that tells you exactly where the system is breaking and what needs to be engineered to move the business forward. So no, you're not applying because you're ready to buy. You're applying because you're ready to create enough clarity for the right conversation. The application creates context, the fit call creates alignment, the audit creates diagnosis, and the engagement creates execution. That is the path. Here's the part most founders never want to hear. The next 12 months, they're going to happen either way. You're either going to spend them paying for lessons in ad spend and failed campaigns and vendors who diagnose from their specialty and sales opportunities that go cold because nobody figured out where the belief was breaking, or you're going to spend them with the constraint identified and the system actually engineered to do what you've been trying to do. Same exact 12 months, but a completely different ending. You don't need to keep funding the wrong constraint. You don't need to keep paying for lessons that we've already paid for you. You need the system understood, you need the constraint identified, you need clarity, and with clarity comes, guess what? Good decisions. Make a good one. Complete the application below.